Soft Power Universe, and welcome to Moon Day Grounding. My name is Siobhan. I am one of the Soft Power stewards here, and we got Dr. Kiki, Midori, and Nathaniel today gathering to share our grounding space with y'all. This has been such a fun way, and for me, a really supportive challenge to show up weekly. And so shout out to the team for making that happen. Shout out to y'all for showing up weekly as well. We got Soul Bloom in the chat. Tell Asian Chick, good morning. This has been such a fun community live. So if you're not watching live, you want to consider joining live, because we are Soft Power, a church for the spirits of creativity, care, connection, and change. And welcome to Moonday Grounding.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Dr. Kiki, and I would love to lead us through our harmonizing frequency practice here, where we chant, sing, hum, and harmonize 3 tones that can connect to the Western chakra system that we use in Soft Power Choir as a way to clear, cleanse, and connect deeper with the voice and the body, and to use our own voice, our own soul's unique frequency to ground and regulate our nervous system and co-regulate with one another. So today, I've been feeling extra swirly lately, and so I'm just inviting more grounding energy. So really sticking with that that's connected to the root chakra, connecting to that grounding, safety, coming back to neutrality so that we can have discernment as we are experiencing and receiving so much information these days. And so just inviting energies of support to help us ground and continue coming back to our authentic voice and our unique essence. So wherever you're at, exhaling all of your air out. Inhaling as if you're sipping through a straw. And together we'll sing an Inviting lower tones into the body to help relax the body, to ground the body. And on this next tone, inviting you to harmonize with this frequency, to wander, to play with this sound, as well as to invite any other supportive energies in and ancestors or guides that you would like to call in for this time and this week. And on our third tone, inviting gratitude for first ourselves, for whatever we had to do to get here today or to watch the replay, as well as gratitude for this community here at Soft Power, to be able to come to spaces like this, to have mirrors of people with aligned values and who are continuing to show up to continue shedding these programs and narratives that are not serving us any longer, so that we can really tap into our creative and soft power. You are now tapped into the soft power frequency.
Thanks, Dr. Kiki, Siobhan. Welcome, everyone. So today, our card pull, I've been pulling from the Energy Archaeology deck. Okay, I am full. I love this deck. I really, really feel like there's such potent medicine In Ashley Stinson's framework, it's about the bones and how the bone and the energy moves through the bone body. And so the card of the day that I pulled while we were introing was vulnerability. And the bone associated with vulnerability is the sternum. It says, vulnerability is neither strength nor weakness. It's softness. It's your humanity. And it is a gift that you first must give to yourself. And so from an anatomical perspective, the sternum is a flat bone located in the front, at the front midline of the thorax. The breastbone has three main parts: the manubrium, or large trapezoidal shape at the top of the bone, the flat elongated body, and the small xiphoid process at the bottom. The earth energy sternum is the site of articulation and attachment for the clavicles and the costal cartilage of the ribs. So this is the wisdom of that card. Vulnerability is called a strength by some and a weakness by others. Consider this: it is neither. It doesn't have to be dressed up as a strength for it to be valuable, nor does it need to be a weakness for relevancy. Vulnerability is simply a state of being, a way of meeting the world and other people without protection and armor, without hiding and manipulating, without having to cut yourself open and bleed your truth for all to see. Many people walk around with this bone so tightly held that they can't see their heart essence slipping away, fading into oblivion. And what's mirrored back is a world that is also missing its heart essence. But you have the ability to create a world within worlds where you can lie down within this bone of your body and practice softness. First with yourself, then flowing, flooding it out to the world around you. Vulnerability is softness. It's your humanity, and it is a gift that you must give to yourself, that you must first give to yourself. My goodness. Some of the questions are: remember a moment of vulnerability. How was it met by those around me? And what did it teach me about sharing myself openly? I've really been sitting with that card, y'all. I mean, I keep pulling this card. So, yeah, this period of a lot of planets going into retrograde and Mars swinging back direct feels like just a lot of introspective, internal reflection, and a lot of like childhood wound stuff coming up. I don't know if I have much to comment on in addition to that, because I feel like that really sums it up. But I have been feeling like vulnerability, like they were saying, is the willingness to open your heart again after, and it has this element of like, I keep pulling like the Three of Swords of like heartbreak and like what happens when we've been so heartbroken by all these systems or family systems that have promised us to take care of us, and the disappointment and heartbreak that happens when they don't, and the realization that they're not going to. And what do we build from that place? How do we continue to keep our heart open and stay vulnerable through those continual heartbreak? It's always going to be a process, and the capacity to hold the heartbreak, because that is on the kind of, that is has as much heartbreak that we can hold as much joy as we can hold. And so being able to like really sit in the grief and yeah, just there's a lot of grief right now, and I think we're going to continue to be grieving. And so how are we connecting with each other? I always think that a little bit of isolation is good for me, and solitude is good for me, in order to like calibrate and remember what I need to reflect on, and then always returning to connection with the people that you love at the end of the day, that you're building trust with or have built trust with, is the medicine, y'all, because we're not here to do it alone. We're here to feel it all. We're here to, there's no end game really, just to exist and let the emotions run through and acknowledge it and transmute it together. So that's the message from the cards today. Let's move a little bit just to kind of shake that off. So I am today's Qigong auntie because Flo is out. So I will be stepping in. Let us do a little standing. And I just want us to start with a little shaking. So wherever at, you can even shake while you're sitting. If you don't have capacity, if you aren't able to stand, but just shaking the body. You can even start raising your hands up. Going left. Going right. Left. And then right. And then we can invite some twists into the body. Twisting the thoracic spine. Breathing out. Really getting all the air out of our lungs on the exhale. Twists are really good for revitalizing your energy. And then I'm actually going to bring the shake on down to 1 foot at a time. So lift up 1 foot, shake that out. Sometimes we have some chi blockages on each foot that need to be shaken out. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. All right, and we'll come sit back down. Let's just do some neck rotations. Getting settled. And, I'm learning how to move my body without being so violent sometimes. Like, I feel like sometimes I'm like, oh, I want to feel sensation, like I want to feel a stim and like kind of force my body beyond what I think its capacity is for. So just really lean into like, what is my capacity for this moment in my body? Maybe it's kind of moving a little more gently. Really letting any spots, hanging out in any spots that need a little love. You can change directions. And then moving to the shoulders. Bringing some rotations to the shoulders now to finish this off. Rotating them in one direction. Maybe bringing them up to scrunching them up and then releasing them on the exhale. Letting out a sound. Just as a reminder to always tap in with your body throughout the day. The key, y'all, is the body's wisdom, first and foremost. major key. All right. Thank you so much for vibing with me and passing it back to Nathaniel.
I'm like feeling extremely emotional today through that. That message hit. And yeah, I've just been moving through a lot of like anger and grief this weekend, and fuck, I'm not trying to cry on the live stream. I guess I am because of vulnerability. But the system is so infuriating and dangerous and violent, and you know, I feel the heartbeat of that through my like close personal relationships, like constantly. And yeah, just responded to a crisis with a sibling this weekend involving the police and hate crime and violence, and just really remembering with a lot of like sober clarity, like how the most vulnerable will be villainized and criminalized and handcuffed and thrown in the back of a car, no questions asked, and remembering that that's us. And you know, just the sort of like discernment of vulnerability as well in that, and knowing like I've just been thinking a lot about the snake. A lot of animals have been coming to me recently, and just like to show me things like how the hawk, you know, sits in the tree and waits and is patient and can see a lot and knows when to go down and go for its kill. And the snake similarly, you know, just all these animals, the octopus that stays hidden and like can in a breath like change its texture, shape, and color to blend in, to be invisible. Like the armoring that is required right now because of like actual like real vulnerability for like our livelihoods. And then also on the other side of that, it's like I found myself like going from that situation to like being in space with softness and like transness and like being held and being able to like hold space for grief and anger. And like that, it's just that rinse and repeat over and over again. Like we just show up for each other vulnerably with softness and remember who our enemy is, and remember that right now the enemy is able to embody so many people, like, and the spiritual warfare inside of that, and the emboldened energy and those all those people that apologize or are complacent with the system of, you know, kind of excuse, like are going to be bearers of their plan. Even what is perceived as feeble old man in the marketplace has the power of a whole police force behind him because he's white and cis and het, and that is the power in the system, period. So I'm just really like sitting with like, what does vulnerability mean on both sides of that? Like on the, it's not bad or good. What's the reality of it? The reality of it is we are vulnerable to a very powerful system, like that can really fuck us up. And in our vulnerability, like with each other, we can like build that like force field against it. So yeah, just moving through a lot. I wasn't planning to share that, but that's where it goes. I'm also knowing there's like a lot of shit in Pisces right now. And like, this is the moment to really be dropping into those emotions and body feelings. Like, there's so much about like setting up the stage for what's to come through the wisdom of our body and emotions. And like, so I'm just really grateful that for everyone's message so far today and the ways that that feels aligned to what I've been studying for what's to come and how to embrace it. And yeah, I'm just, as a really earthy bitch, I'm really trying to like invite emotion and like emotional connection in my body this week, especially with the new moon in Pisces. And so kind of on that note, the things that have been percolating to engage with. I mean, I think there's already been a lot shared that we can engage with. So if people want to respond to that, please do. And then also just kind of thinking through like, this has been a time of like extreme transformation. Mars has gone direct. So lots more clarity. And also I think the ramping up of like speed of everything. Like, I don't know if y'all felt, I felt like I felt the shift. I felt the shift from like slow to, oh, we move them. There's acceleration here. And so, and it's one of those things too, where it's like everything already felt fast. So I don't know that we need faster, but she's here. So, you know, just kind of with that in mind, like, how do we maintain our like fortitude inside of the speed? Like, what's keeping you like grounded and in that space of whilst things are increasing, while your need to expand your capacity for the amount of grief you can hold, for the amount of joy you can hold. Like, what are the messages coming in for that? So I think for me, there's a lot of things that I feel like I've been initiated into even in the last few days, but I think one thing I think a lot about power and the way that we all have power. And for me, as someone who like, I struggle a lot with insecurity, and I have been thinking a lot about like, what is insecurity's relationship to power? And it's like this, and what are the like harmful repercussions of that? Like when I'm insecure and I'm not confident in my power, like my power is making an impact either way, like whether I'm holding it or not. So insecurity isn't just like uncomfortable and like not how I want to feel. It's also like irresponsible to my power and like and like owning it. And so I've been thinking a lot about that because I did a striptease performance on Friday. For the first, I hadn't done a live performance stripping in like 2 years. And so it's interesting because I felt bravest on stage. And it was when I was off stage that and none of my friends were there. And like, I was, you know, I mean, I had new people there. Let me be clear. Like I have friends and acquaintances, but like none of my like friends were there. And all my insecurity, I could just feel it. And just this, like, I kept feeling this pull to like, hey, be present and like, just be here. And noticing where my insecurity comes from, noticing how there's so much of it there, and noticing how much heartbreak is inside of me and how much grief I hold that like makes the way that people are laughing and making out with strangers and just like all these things. And I'm like, God, all of that feels so like far away from accessible to me. And that makes me sad. And like, you know, just really sitting with all of that. And then just had a lot of moments reminding me of my own heartbreak all weekend, and just seeing that that's something I need to tend to, and so that I can be responsible and confident in my power and like knowing who the fuck I am and like being really direct and clear. And I think the other thing that's really been coming through for me is just sort of this message around like bird's eye view, big picture, lifetimes, so that I can be really, really present right now in this moment. And like just sort of that duality of holding that balance, being like really where my perspective lies right now is like anything I'm facing, being able to see the forest, all of it, and then also see like the tree that I'm looking at right in front of me and like being there. And I think the ways I've shifted my relationship to technology has made that really possible. And yeah, I'm just seeing like a lot of benefits from that. So that's kind of what's percolating for me. And thank you for everyone that has shared so far. That has really, powerful messages. Anyone feeling? Kiki, do you want to kick us off?
Happy to, and thank you, Nathaniel, for just your vulnerability and sharing where you're at, what has been, happening within your world the last few days, and still showing up here today is just, wanting to just honor all that all that you're going through right now, all that we are collectively going through, and being open and honest with us so that we can all show up open, honest, and transparent with one another too. We try to practice hotness over here, and you're really kicking us off very well. Vulnerability is not my strong suit, y'all, and that has been my main focus. In I think when I say decolonizing, I think it's softening is actually where I've been at for the last 5 years of like constantly softening, because the song that I wrote when I was in 7th grade, it was like the first one that I like went into the practice room, sat down at the piano and kind of started plunking out. The chorus is, "Where did I go wrong?" So already in 7th grade, I was feeling like I had already made some pretty poor decisions about people I had in my life, and feeling like, oh wow, like I allowed some liars, I allowed some cheats in my life, I allowed some stuff in, and really questioning my ability to make aligned connections. And so I think that is just a clear example of when I started, or one of the points in where I started building up these walls so that I wasn't vulnerable with people. Because I was like, oh, well, then nobody's nobody I can trust. I can only trust myself. And so, really, like being in that hypervigilant state until 2020, when I found myself literally in a desert by myself, hundreds, thousands of miles away from family or anyone that I thought would say that they loved me. And realizing, wow, like all of my decisions have actually led me to more and more isolation, to the point where I'm like, even in a place where I'm like parched for water and have like zero emotional connection to the people that I claim to be the most important in my life. And so that was a major turning point for me to just start making decisions that felt more aligned and more in integrity with my values. Um, but of course, that's like such a journey, because we're constantly in this, as you were kind of referring to, this like kind of past, present, future moment where you're seeing the big picture and the present moment and the all of the things, the lifetimes that are about to come and the lifetimes that have already happened. And um, I think I can get really lost in this, wanting to be right in my next move. And so just like really being in that space of like being vulnerable is actually choosing to make mistakes and choosing to fail and choosing to accept that as part of the journey. And if I'm constantly trying to um, make that next perfect move, I think very similar as you were saying, Nathaniel, like that is irresponsible actually with the power that I have, because I'm trying to do all this stuff when instead of actually just witnessing it and seeing what I have in front of me and what I have in this moment, and what is within me to respond to. Um, and so in this last few weeks, where I have definitely felt that acceleration and a shift in what I'm experiencing daily, my really my every single day is very very different than like 3 weeks ago. Like it's really really wild how very very different February has felt compared to January. I think January felt like 6 months long, and February's been like 2 days long, and we're almost done with it. So I'm just really in that kind of space of like, wow, a lot is going on, a lot has changed, and what do I need to do in this moment to stay present, to not to accept those times when my mind does want to kind of spiral to the future or to the past, but bringing myself back to center and really trusting that the relationships that I've been building through the Church of Soft Power, when I have found this community, that was when I was able to rebuild the trust with myself that I actually do know what is in alignment for me and what my values are. And it just takes like kind of those awkward, uncomfortable steps to, make that Instagram account that like allowed me to like find my people, or like be that cringy thing that you think it is, to just like take that step a little bit closer to you being your true self. Because that's what I feel like in my world that's been the most powerful, is just taking tiny little steps every little day that feel a little bit closer to who I am, whether that's just like putting on an outfit that makes me feel a little bit more like myself, saying an affirmation that reminds me of who I am, um, getting into my body, trying to get out of my head as much, again, disconnecting from technology, getting more into my journal and just more into my cards, returning to my inner voice and reminding myself of what that sounds like, so that when I am out in the world, I can discern, oh, that's a voice from somebody else and they're projecting that onto me, and that actually isn't mine, so I don't have to take that on. But I think, as so many of us here identify as being intuitive or psychics, mediums, etc., healers, it's I think that is our journey of discernment, of figuring out what that voice is and whose that voice is, so that we can really trust that those feelings, sensations that we're having, like Midori said, the body is the key to knowing what those messages mean, and knowing when it is you and when it's not you. Um, and so for me, it's that shedding of the walls to allow the softening, to allow the vulnerability, um, but also knowing that I can still protect myself when those moments come up, when that enemy does appear, and I am still prepared, and I still have the tools needed to keep myself safe and secure. Um, but just, I think more of this, I'm thinking of the armor or the protection that I place on myself every day, still allowing love to come in and to be able to receive it and to feel it and to allow those sensations of joy and love and care to resonate throughout my entire body, so that I can continue caring for this vessel. Because if I just block all of that, I'm going to continue burning myself up and coming from nothing. And that's not helpful either. So I've really been in that place of thinking about, what do I need for my energy and my capacity, and coming back to, it's down to me to be able to receive more love. And it's so much easier said than done, when you've been in a lifetime and lived experiences that continue to affirm that the world is an unsafe place for us, which, Nathaniel, you speak to, like, that is very real. um, and so how do we navigate that and balance that with some of these regulation practices, with community, with trusting ourselves, and just knowing that we've already taken step by step by step to get here today. And so just reminding ourselves that we can continue doing that today, tomorrow, and the next day. Um, and that we can really hold on to community here, use our voices to speak up when we need something, and just really wanting to encourage this community. I think here at Church of Soft Power, we are here to resource artists, to resource ourselves, to resource creatives, to resource our community. And so the needs that are needed in this community, use your voice. Let us know. We may not be able to, cover the exact need, but I think the more that we can understand what is needed within this community, the more we can show up for us, and start really imagining and being creative and co-creative together to show up for one another, even if we are separated by time and space. I think that's the cup that we have here within the co-founding and stewarding team of the Church of Soft Power, is that we have a full cup when we come together, and that's where we try to come with that overflow into our community. And I think at this point, I would just love to invite folks who are showing up to these lives and showing up to our sanctuary gatherings to share with us, what we can do more for our community, what spaces are needed, so that we can be vulnerable, that we can speak up in safe spaces, and that we can, just really start bringing these brains together, to be creative and to find solutions. And to at least be there with one another, at the very least, to listen and to reflect back that care and love that, I know we all are looking for and need. And I do always find here in Soft Power. So, um, yeah, I think that's where I'm going to leave it for today. But I love y'all.
Thank you, Kiki. So much, so much wisdom and so many valuable perspectives. I'm really sitting in that same place with you of like, sort of like discerning our survival responses and like what they're trying to tell us from like the reality of what we're inside of, and being able to know whether to apply where and whether and how much and to what degree to apply that survival response versus also like welcoming. And there's like we still have to risk being hurt for love, like that. It's all connected. So I really love you naming that, and I've also been really sitting with that a lot as well. And even just to that added piece of like, it's like giving vulnerability is how you receive it. It's like that's where the exchange comes in. So I love the real example of like a way to offer your vulnerability is to ask for support and ask for your needs to be met, because that's so vulnerable, because people can say no and they're like, cool, well, never gonna do that again. And it's like, or and I think too, when you have a collective of people, it's like, yeah, I may not be able to, but like I can there becomes a networking system, which I think is so valuable, and it's such a valuable way to relate. I think I'm someone who, at this point in my life, I don't really see myself getting into any sort of like traditional romantic relationship in any way. Like I don't see myself really like being like, oh yeah, I'm like gonna partner with this person. Like that's just not my truth. And I think a part of that is about like the ways that I find that two people, even if you're like ethically non-monogamous, or like still two people can just rely on one another for everything, and like the way resentment can build and things like that, and the way that like creating interdependent networks is how like nothing falls on one person specifically heavier, right? There's always a way to pass it off. And like I think that was something I gained a lot in like, or just continue to gain from my chosen family in the ways that we show up for one another. Is it is so often that it'll just be like, hey, I have this need, I'm voicing it. The person that hears it is like, oh, I can't do that, but like, I think this person can, or whatever, or like, I can't handle this right now. I need other people actually supporting this person. So what I can do is call the people, they can come and I can bounce. And it doesn't mean anything about me because I just don't have capacity for this, right? And like the ways that expanding trust and vulnerability is actually about creating these networks of care that build something else. Like, and that it's like that, it's that simple. It's like asking for help is actually going to help activate a network of care and community support that gets us to where we're trying to go. So I really appreciate you naming that example. And I think it's such a great way to like engage with this specific community. There's so much wisdom, not just here with the people on the screen, but like the people in the Soft Power community are so dope, and everyone offers so much. And I just think that there is enough here. There is enough for us to build right here with who's here and who's engaged. And I think that's really beautiful. So love that invitation. Siobhan, would you like to share next?
So many things I'm just digesting, and first, just thank you to you both, all three of you so far, for sharing what you have. Really, not a day goes by late that I don't like sit and feel like such deep gratitude, where I'm like getting emotional at who I get to walk this path with. And that's really a source of strength for me oftentimes. Even if it is on a superficial level, sometimes it's like the mirrors around me and be like, okay, like I'm not a piece of shit. Like these people still fuck with me. And I try, my journey is working on speaking less, violent in that way to myself, but that is kind of ways. Also, I'm just very Bay Area, so I'm always going to be talking shit, including myself. So that really is like I have such a petty way of motivating myself sometimes, or I see if they can do that, like, Siobhan, get off your ass. Like that has pushed me and motivated me to things. And one thing that stands out that both Nathaniel and Kiki talked about is this armor. And I think this season for me lately, this March retrograde has really, it's almost been like a maintenance and like a new armor, because I'm seeing where the armor, like I'm thinking about what was that armor built of, what is a material that makes this armor. And for so long, it was perfectionism and excellence and like excelling at things and thinking that, well, if I can just get ahead and know everything, then no one can tell me shit. And that did work for some time. And that is my defense mechanism, and connected with my, it's like a shadow of this like thirst for knowledge that I have all the time. And I'm always wanting to learn. And really, when I dig deeper, I'm like, why do I always want to learn? One, I just like to know things, but why do I want to know things? This like practice where I just ask why until I get to the root. And there's a level of perfectionism in there that's like, if I know everything, then I'm indestructible. And obviously that's not gonna work. It's exhausting. I have just I just know that my path, being called to steward this stage of soft power. And for those who haven't heard us say it, like since the beginning, we've known that soft power is so beyond us. It's even so beyond this like institution that we're like putting foundations for. But there's something in the exchange of why of us have come in at this certain stage to build something. There's something specific to what we have and what we bring. Midori has said that from the start, that like a guiding kind of phrase was like, stay in your lane, help everyone stay in their lane. And I feel that I have like a few lanes, but this recent season has really been zoning in of like, what is the path for this moment, for this stage. Like you don't have to know everything. And like Kiki said, like we can't see the full picture, but we have to take a step onto the path. And that is how I've gotten everywhere in my life, was just kind of like this like young philosophical side of me where like, I don't know, like, but if I make a choice, I have to embrace both the pro and con sides of my list. Like that was one of the first ways I learned to make choices, like write the pros and cons. And knowing like, okay, well, I'm making this choice and the cons don't vanish. They're still there. And that when they come up, I have to remember that I accepted, and like this was another side to this path that I chose. And so lately, I mean, yeah, January felt like forever. February, I keep thinking like, February's almost over. And that was like, even on the 10th of the month, I was like, why am I just like ramming through February? I have been so appreciative at the group slowing down that we've done. And it's usually like started by one person, like naming that need, and then all of us kind of like, oh yeah, we can use that too. And so last week I was like laughing to myself. I was like, Midori needed one meeting canceled, and I was like, well, I'm gonna take a week off. Like this is great. That's basically what I did. I did like my minimal things. There's like the minimum things that have to get done, like emails. And I was like, well, sounds like a great cue to just chill out. And I really, really, really needed that. And there's no way that I would have done that without like seeing everyone else's kind of responses. And I'm being gentle with myself about that. Sometimes it is like, I think like, well, why am I not like, how come I'm not able to like listen to my body and name that? And I'm like, well, that's why I was sent like all these Taurus husband is to be with me and remind me of a body, because I don't have any of that in me. And it's okay to like, that is the use of this mirror to me sometimes. It's like, cool, they're reflecting back that like we've done so much, we've poured in, and I've never once judged anyone on the team saying that they need it, because I'm like, yeah, you fucking work hard, and like I appreciate everything you bring. And even if you haven't been working hard lately, like that's an indicator of something deeper that you got to get to. And like this is so healing for what I needed in those times. I was not given grace, when I needed rest. When I grew up just very an active family, and such a gift to spend a lot of time with my family of origin recently and be able to see from this kind of bird's eye view how we operate and are like so intertwined in energies. And I can really just have been giving myself grace. My teenage self has been really, really present this past year, and I think it's because she really understood so much. And when we talk about listening to what the body knows, I think my teen self really knew a lot. And I've been doing in therapy this like parts work approach of meeting this teen self, and my therapist asking like, like, what do you say to her? What does she need? And so much of it is just validation that she's not tripping. It's like undoing the gaslighting of how her body knew this is a lot, how much she didn't trust the adults to making decisions. And now I can really like bring so much compassion for every person in these situations, because yeah, this vulnerability, like like you said, there's I've been working with this like strategic vulnerability, because you meant in the card it mentioned something about like not just like bleeding yourself out. And I feel like there was a time where was where my vulnerability was coming from, was like, let me just show it all so nobody again like can weaponize it against me. If I just like put it all out there, then there's nothing they can take, which isn't true. People will still weaponize that shit. And also, then I ran it back when I was like, I don't owe anybody any of this. I don't owe these stories. I completely shut it down. And I've also been able to sit honestly with the impact of that recently, which was, again, this armor being built of perfectionism, that I'm going to step back out when I'm perfect. I had a couple like really big ego blows in the last couple of years when it came to my business or my mentors, that made me think like, well, I'll just come back perfect and they can't tell me shit. And it's not always that harsh, but like that is a voice in me that's so protective of me, because that, there's sources of that. Like that's kind of how my family moves, and it's been successful in some ways. It's like we work together, we stand as like a united front, um, and no one can break us. And I think I've been so lucky to see the hole and leaks in my armor, and to have had the space to really sit with what this is going to require of me. So yeah, when I really think about this kind of um, shedding that I've been doing, stepping into this year, this Mars retrograde over my sun, my Mercury, my Chiron, it's like I have to keep finding a way to show up, um, and remember, yeah, I'm just shedding so much perfectionism, stopping me from that. I feel like the material my new armor is being built of is so much. Um, I think about two images come to mind. I think about the Black Panther, the movie. I don't know if anyone's seen it, where they, his sister creates this armor that it gets hit in one spot and it like returns that full force out to that person, and like it almost like mirrors the force that they receive. And then the second image in my head is just of bamboo, and bamboo has been this, it was my nickname for summer camp. I was a camp counselor for 7 years, and it became my nickname just because my friends would call me Shabambu. And then they were like, just be Bamboo. Because they were like, I was like, my camp name's not going to be Shabambu, guys. Like, I'm not going to have the kids calling me that niche nickname. But Bamboo, just the idea of like the strength requiring flexibility, is really important for me to constantly remember that it's not like being solid like glass actually is more vulnerable to cracks, and being something that can move with the force and sway with the tides is kind of strength that I embody and that I want to rise and share. And knowing lately, I think really the main message for me has been, Siobhan, you have so many things to give to this moment. Your whole life has been building to offer up lessons that you've taken for this moment. And who wins when you're not sharing it because it's not perfect yet, or it can't withstand criticism? Because what can, like, it's so unrealistic that I'm ever going to create something that's not going to have criticism, like, that's, and I value criticism, so it's just at odds with my own values. And that's where I'm growing, and the ways that I've done that really only been possible through a lot of rest, a lot of presence with my son, and seeing our relationship lately. I just see the proof in the pudding of these shifts that I've made. And lately, that's been the gift of this era. Like, like we're talking about the last 2 months. I also moved in with my ex-husband in the last 2 months, and it's been phenomenally different because the way I'm able to meet with more flexibility and less rigidness, and also the gift of being able to see that all the problems I thought were mine to fix, like, I was never gonna be able to fix this man. I was never gonna be able to change my family, like, just from being me. That's a delusion of power that had to get regrounded into, like, the actual power that I have, which is over my own choices, my own life. And so that's where I'm at. Thank you.
I always resonate with so much of what you say. I feel like we're always like dealing with a lot of the same stuff. So really appreciate your share. And yeah, so many things. I think like I especially appreciate the like slowing down reminder too of like that's a lot about what Mars retrograde was here to teach us, and was like we need to slow down. And I think the timing, like, and part of me is like I feel like the timing was really important because this Mars retrograde was happening while fascist forces were like increasing. So there's this like pull for urgency, but then like Mars is like, but now is not the time to act. And I think that in itself is like a lesson where it's like, if you're being pulled towards urgency from something external, it's not necessarily a no, but it's just like evaluate that, like spend some time with it, sit with it, like before you decide what you're going to do. And so I think like as Mars now goes direct, and we're about to have more retrogrades in March with Venus and Mercury, but like, you know, really remembering that skill that we learned from Mars, remembering that like slow and steady is good. And like, as people who can like step back and see timelines, we know that like our role is to like do what we're supposed to do and do it well and do it strategically and allow it to integrate. And like, what does it look like to move slowly in a system that relies on urgency? That's revolutionary practice. That's countercultural practice. And so I really like, yeah, I love that call in. And I like the ways that I think like we as soft power have slowed down, because I think it's felt that I feel like we're getting like deeper with the people that are here, and we're getting really present with like what we're doing, and really like grounding and like this is our medicine, this is our offering. And just, yeah, we need each other in this this is if this is all we ever did, it would be enough. And just being inside of that, and then also knowing that, and also we have some other cute ideas we want to do. So you know weighing all of that. So I really appreciate that, and so many things that you talked about. All right, I'm gonna pass it to Midori for our last little share. And I shared some, but anything else you want to share?
I love that. If this is all we ever did, it would be enough. And I just always have to remind myself of that, because I'm an Aries, and I find my ass being like, all right, what's next? What's next? What's next? How do we do more? I'm so inspired. Let's next thing. And I'm just like, okay, like this is so revolutionary for us to show up consistently in a world that wants us to be so inundated by all the new shiny things. And like the resistance to me is showing up in the ways that we say we're going to consistently and with intention and caring for ourselves, like showing up within those things as well as we can possibly be, and communicating when we can't. Like Flo said, I can't do today, and we're like, okay, yeah. There's so many other. We're all here, you know, and that's the whole point of soft power is that when someone is like, yo, I need care, I can't show up to choir, I can step in. Siobhan can step in. We know each other. We know what the expectations are of our spaces. We know the values. We trust each other to hand it off. And like that's going to continue to grow and with time and nurturance and something that I hope to grow within our community as well. And I think that just takes time. Like there's not really necessarily like there's processes and like systems we can put in place, but for the most part, like that's what I'm interested in is like how do we build that within our community. And I know Nathaniel is someone who does that within their local networks, and I want to learn from you. And you know, I think a lot of people have so much wisdom. Everyone in our community has so much wisdom on how to care and build these networks. And just speaking to Kiki of like wanting to continue to make those connections, to share that knowledge, to brainstorm how we can bring that into the ecosystem of what we do here is really dope. I pulled another card. I pulled two cards, and the one that I feel like is the most relevant right now is transition. It's the axis vertebra, and the, the message is reflect on the past and dream of your future, but remember that straight ahead is your home. It's like, damn. So yeah, I'm just going to read this as our kind of closing statement, but it says, transition can be graceful, it can be full of ease, it can proceed as smoothly as the way you turn your head from side to side. Give yourself space to transition. Build your capacity for the flexibility that not knowing requires. When you have a sense of what is to come, but you have no physical evidence, allow yourself to be present with that. The unknown, in between fertile void of the chrysalis is where you unbecome and become at the same time. Let go of the notion that times of transition have to be overwrought, difficult, or something to fear. There does not always have to be a breakdown before there's a breakthrough. Your bone body and energetic foundations support the building of new structures even as the old ones crumble, and you can be present in the beautiful chaos of the middle. Do not halt the process of transition. You cannot stop the process midway through and expect to be pleased with what is before you. Reflect on the past and dream of your future, but remember that straight ahead is your home. Be present in this spaciousness. Yeah, y'all. Transitionary times. We're always in transition, you know? And that is the message of, yeah, like how do we kind of sit? Like how do I see this like lotus flower or like these like migrant boats that like a lot of our immigrant ancestors came over in. Is just like literally sitting on boats of like and thinking about how like ICE is deporting all these people right now, like these people who are literally like sitting being like, I don't know what my future is, and all of the grief that comes with sitting in the unknown of how fucked this reality is and all the violence inflicted on that, and like the dysregulation in that. And also like, you know, like my grandparents came over here, you know, and built a life, and remembering that the pathway is always going to be home. And to me it's like developing this home within my body, the one that I know will be with me until I die. And yeah, I think like I always sometimes seek like stability within my physical environment. And that's why like Sanctuary Studio has always come really, really through to me so hard, is because it's like, yeah, I need this physical space, but also like what does it feel like to really start to like like tap on these tools and practices to regulate my first home, which is this body, you know, that will be with me until the end, you know. And that's what we hope to provide here. And just really sending up prayers for everyone. These times are really freaking hard. And I know the team's going through it. I just know all of our siblings all over the world are, you know, scared. And also, I know there's just so much like possibility for transformation. And also, people are experiencing the other end of that, of joy, of like fullness, of creativity, of like what is possible, and all the ways that we have built for this moment, and will continue to do so. So, just appreciate the space. And that's the message for the day.
Thank you, Midori. Thanks for pulling that card and the powerful visual you like provided and thinking about transition. I think, you know, we're also like, we're in retrograde for multiple things, but we are also in like a little tiny window where nothing is retrograding for like a few days. And I think about that as a transition of itself, of just like this week with this like new moon, like what does it look like to tap into that body wisdom, to prepare for what's ahead, and really be grounded in that, and like the intentions that I want to set with my body to lead the way, and to trust it and to know it, and to build, like strengthen that communication framework that I have with it, and just all those things. So really resonating with that as my intention for this week. And just, yeah, wow. It's quite a day of talking. Thank you all for tuning in, and for being a part of this community. I do just believe that, oh yeah, from Flo. We love you, Flo. Flo is someone who supported in some aftercare for me this weekend when I was, after I was supporting my siblings. So just thinking about the network of care and how much care you provide, Flo. You're such a wonderful human. So yeah, again, like please don't hesitate to reach out if you're someone who is needing support. Even if one of us can't provide it, we can certainly do what we can to find resourcing, and whatever way that looks like. That is our intention for the space, is to be that resource. And also we've got some things coming up this week. I know we have a movement cafe this week. I think, is there anything else this week? And then we have Flo's dance party Friday night. So make sure you're tuning into that. That's going to be really great. There's the DJ. Flo's leading some, movement stuff before we get to the dance party piece. And I'm sure you'll see most of these members. I'll be backstage doing tech, but I think everyone else on the screen is going to be there, dancing and partying it up. So, just really encourage you to come out for that. We need, it's good to dance about it. It's good to dance about it with each other and have some joy. I think that just holding space for our joy with our grief is really important practice. And what a great time to celebrate a lovely little Pisces in our life, and also just all the Pisces in our lives, and this season and what's to come. So am I missing anything else? Are there any other events this week? Okay, cool. Awesome. And if you're not a part of our village, you can check out the QR code that'll come up at the end of the show and tap into our village so you can be up to know what else is happening in our community. Also gives you access to like recordings, and then also our Discord server so that you can engage with the community. And also, if you are available to resource and you're feeling supported today and want to throw some dollars our way, even if it's just 5, the QR code will lead you to a place to send us some funds. Thank you, Poppy. We love you. We love your energy. Another beautiful Pisces who has a birthday this week. Sending love to all our Pisces babies. We're so grateful for y'all's little sweetness in the world. My goodness. Where would we be without that sweetness? And with that, I wish you all, a week of tapping into the body and its wisdom and creating space for your emotions to give you information that you need to get through and set yourself up for success towards your goals that are about liberation. I know they are. So prayers to that. And thanks for tuning in. And we'll see you next time.
And post for the ancestors.
Oh.
That's it. Thank you.